obviously it's myself, Annalise Currency, and I'm doing this year's seminar. And what we're going to go over today are scheduling basics, and we're going to also touch on the whiteboard today. So basically, when you're ready to start your scheduling, that's when you call me and ask for the scheduling rollover form. I usually request that, and the only reason I do is because I want to make sure that I'm doing exactly what you want. Some people like to roll over their master schedule, and some people like to just start from scratch and start from a blank schedule. So I like to get all that information if you're changing cycle days, things like that. So I just get that in writing, then I can have it to refer to later if I do something wrong. We also then, once you have things rolled over, you have to start with course selections. On a secondary level, unless you're a really small school, you're going to probably put course selections in for your students. That's going to be helpful for you to see your staffing needs, how many sections of a course you might need, things of that nature. So you don't have to do your entire rollover to start doing course selections, but you need to at least have your course catalog rolled over at that point. So we can do that without the form, and then we can take care of the rest of it later. So then you're going to look at your course reports, and you're going to look at maybe course selection totals per department, or maybe the course selection totals per department with student names. Those are the reports that you're going to look at that will help you to decide who is teaching, what you are teaching, how many sections you need, if you're going to offer a section of a course, or maybe there's not enough of an interest in it and you might not offer it, things like that. Once you have all of that information together, you can start entering your schedule into Schooltool. You're going to verify all your foundational information first, make sure your cycle days are correct. So when you go into your schedule, if you see Monday through Friday and you're a 1 through 6, call me first before you start doing anything, because we want to fix that before you start scheduling, because maybe we didn't update the cycle day. That's, again, why I ask for the form. I usually go down one by one and make sure I've hit every topic. So just check that information, make sure it looks right, however many quarters you need, or if you just do semesters, your cycle days are correct, all of that, and you have periods in there. So all of that information must be correct before you want to start scheduling, because if I have to change it later, it's going to affect your information. So a checklist that you can use is, you want to start with your scheduling rollover. You're going to go to your course requests. Then you're going to build your schedule. Then you're going to start doing some test runs, some scheduling runs to see how things are going, what you need to tweak, things like that. The final thing that you do at the end of all that, when you're sure that everything is where it's going to be, you've fixed any little issues that you might see, then you can enter your study halls. There are reports that will help you to determine how many study halls you need. But that's when you're going to do your study halls. You don't want to do your study halls while you're running your schedule, because then you're going to fill in holes and you're not going to see them as easily as when they're blank and empty.
Hello.
Great. Does anybody have a question at this point?
Hi.
If you're not muted, can you just make sure you're muted? I just want to make sure there's no background noise. But feel free to unmute as you have questions, or you can throw them into the chat. I have one of my coworkers, Katie, helping to monitor the chat, and she'll holler out questions as they come up if you don't feel like interrupting, okay? But I definitely want you to throw out questions as we go through the process. So when your schedule is completed, before running your study halls, you're going to verify that your course requirements are met. So if administrators need, make sure your course requirements are met. Then your administrators are going to look at the schedule and they're going to put in the non-instructional duties. You might want to do that before you do your study halls, or you might actually do it after your study halls. It depends. Some administrators may ask for you to enter specific non-instructional duties before you even do your schedule. The need for that might be there's a specific person that has to do ISS duty. So we want to put that in before we start scheduling so that it doesn't come up later and we have to move a class that we might have in that location. So you may want to check and just say, hey, are there any like hard and fast instructional duties that we need to set in here before we start doing anything? All right. So non-instructional duties are something that we don't think about when we're running schedules, but they can become a nuisance at the end if there's a need for something, and now we have to move a class to get that need met. When you're running your study halls, it's best to do the soft lock first. That's that first lock. You just hit your lock button once. And what happens is up at the top, you'll see you'll only have 3 different tabs, where before you had 5 or 4, you now have only 3. The tabs that'll be remaining will be your main tab, your student schedule builder tab, and your reports tab. On the student schedule builder tab, you will only see the study hall option to run study halls. That's all. You'll get the run option. The priorities are gone. The constraints are gone. The batch editing, all that stuff is gone. There's just the run button. When you click on it, the only thing you'll see in there is anything that's marked in a study hall is a study hall in your course catalog. Okay. If you do the soft lock, teachers can begin to see their schedules. So if you're not ready for that yet, if you want to do the soft lock, get your study halls in, then you're going to have an administrator review things before it's official. You may want to have a publish date added. Just call us at the RIC and we can set a publish date for you. What that does is it holds off on publishing those classes until that date hits. So nobody sees them yet, even though you're locked. Okay, any questions on that part? Okay, moving along. So once your study halls are placed, you're done. That's it. That's the final step usually. So this is the time that your schedules are released to staff, your counselors, if you're an administrator, and now this is when you're going to let your counselors start looking at things. You want them to fix problems. This is when you're going to do the final lock. Okay, that's when you're going to say, okay, I'm not going to make any more changes in the schedule that will require me to use the student schedule builder. Okay, no more. I'm not going to have to place study halls again. This is it. This is where my study halls are. This is where my classes are. No more changes. That's when you do the final lock. What that does is it removes that student schedule builder tab completely. Then nobody can go in and rerun study halls and make a mess of your schedule. Or if you didn't do the soft lock at the beginning, it locks you completely from anybody going in and actually making a new run that breaks everything. Because once a new run is done, the old one's gone. So you want to make sure that you're very careful in there, and a final lock is best case. That's what we would like to see, but a soft lock, you can start school with that. So if you want to keep that student schedule builder screen there, so you can look at your charts and your, the circle charts and all that, you can leave it. It doesn't have to be a final lock, but it's just best to do that. Get rid of that student schedule builder tab. You won't have any mistakes. Okay. All right. What I'm going to focus on today, that was just kind of an overview. This is what you're going to do. You got to put your course requests in. You're going to look at reports. You're going to run that. You're going to put your schedule in, run your students through. Then you're going to put your study halls in. Boom. That's the overview of scheduling. What I want to focus on today, because I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with the whiteboard, and I want to try to get you more comfortable with it. The whiteboard is a very helpful tool. It's a great visual tool. The master schedule editor is better for certain things, but it doesn't help you to see your mistakes. If you open the whiteboard and you view the whiteboard, there are things that will jump out at you as mistakes that you don't see in the editor. You're going to see if a teacher's double booked. You're going to see if a class is double booked. You're going to see if you have flags, those flags will come up on that screen that says, hey, you don't have enough seats for a specific class. All of those things are nice visuals on your screen. As you're building your schedule, there's other visuals. So your tiles are still white. That means there's no kids in there. You're still going to be able to see if you have a single class. Singletons are all outlined in a light blue color. The doubletons, that's when you have 2 sections of a class, those are outlined in orange. The tripletons, so 3 sections of a class, are outlined in purple. And then if you have multiple sections of a class, so 4 or more, those are outlined in green. So those visuals will help you when you're placing classes too. So if I have blues and they're all lined up in a row in the same period, kids are going to have a problem getting in there. Those are all singletons. It's the only place that they can be taken. So those visual cues help us. All right. So that's what it allows you to do. Navigating the whiteboard is you're going to use a menu, and I'm going to show you that menu and what you can do in there. There's little filter icons that are helpful. Those are the different things you need. You need to be able to use the menu. You need to be able to use those filters, which determine what you see on the screen. You can narrow it down to specific course. You can narrow it down to a specific department. You can show everything all at once. So those filters are helpful. And then just a reminder that when you're exiting that whiteboard, do not use the little X at the corner where you're closing the browser completely. You need to use the little green arrow that shows up at the bottom of the screen on the menu bar. That green arrow says, I'm done, I'm leaving. It also gives you the prompt, if you haven't saved yet, that you need to save that. And if you click OK, it'll save your changes for you and get you out. If you click cancel, it allows you to go in and decide you're not going to keep those changes. I did some things that I don't want to keep, so I'm not going to save them. I am going to cancel, and it's going to get me out of the whiteboard, but it doesn't save the changes. If you haven't done anything, if you just went in to look at the whiteboard, then when you use that green arrow, it's just going to get you out. Okay. So let's see what the whiteboard looks like. Okay, when you're going into your master schedule, this is generally what you see. You see, again, here's the 5 tabs at the top. The 5 tabs are the main tab, which is where you go in to either the editor or the whiteboard. You see the master schedule tab or the master schedule builder. If you use that, not a lot of people do, but if you use that, that tab is available there. Then you see the student schedule builder. The student schedule builder is different from the master schedule builder. The master schedule builder allows you to has the system help you build sections, sections of courses. The student schedule builder takes your course requests and filters your students into the schedule. Okay. Then there's the reports tab where all of your reports reside. And there's the backups tab. The backups tab is used when you save a copy of something that you're doing. So as you're working through the master schedule, you may want to try something, but you're not sure if it's going to work. So you save a copy of what you currently have, which includes the master schedule itself. It includes any changes, any student schedules that are in there, and the actual master schedule, constraints, priorities, any of that stuff is going to be contained in that copy. So you're going to hit save a copy. It's going to put a copy in your backups tab. Now you do your changes and you save it and you try the student schedule builder again, and you went from 90% to 85%. You don't like that, we're not going to do it. You go to the backups tab, you restore that backup, and that 90% run will come back. So for the whiteboard view, how is it different? Where do you see that, and where is it different from the editor? So the editor is the piece of paper with the pencil. It's the iconic icon. You see it everywhere whenever you're going to edit something in Schooltool. The whiteboard is the one that looks like a little, I guess it's supposed to look like a little chalkboard. I guess that's the whiteboard eraser there. So that's the one that you click to go into the whiteboard. All right, and I'm going to show you that in the actual training site. Let me log in here. And we wait. I would have logged it in, but I was afraid it was going to be too long for me, and it would log me out anyway. So now I got to do this twice. Apologies for the delay. Okay, here we go. So when you come into when you come into Schooltool, you are going to go to scheduling, master schedule, and that's where you're going to see your tabs. All right, so I'm going to see main, master schedule builder. I should see student schedule builder, reports, and backups. The reason that I'm not seeing the student schedule builder is because I do not actually have a schedule here yet. If you see this, you don't see a whiteboard editor and you don't see a master schedule editor, that means that nothing has been done yet. We haven't put a blank schedule in and we haven't rolled over your schedule yet. So what I'm going to do is, for purposes of this session, I'm going to show you what it looks like if you start from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to build a brand new master schedule. It automatically brings me to the editor because it is asking me to name it. So I'm going to call this new test schedule. All right, and then I'm going to save this and get out because I want to be back on the main tab, because the main tab is where I can choose which of the editors I want to use. So here's the whiteboard filter, and it actually, if you hover over things, it will tell you what they are if you're unsure. So hover over it. Here's the master schedule whiteboard. That's what I want to go into. Click on that and it should open the master schedule whiteboard. Now, if I'm looking at this, this doesn't look very helpful to me because actually I'm in the wrong building. I might be in the elementary. Yeah, I'm sorry. I need building 3.
I was gonna say I thought 1-5 was elementary, but I couldn't remember.
Sorry, I have to pick the right building. That would be your first area to go to. Choose the correct building. Make sure you're in the correct building in the correct year. I already did a blank master schedules. I thought I did, and then go into the whiteboard. So again, here it looks to me as if this is not going to be helpful. I do not see any teachers. I do not see any classes. I see nothing. How is this helpful for me? Well, the thing that we have to know about the whiteboard is that filters are required in order for us to see what we want to see. And we filter down here at the bottom where the menu bar is. There's a bunch of different icons. The filters are the ones that look like little funnels. They're the iconic filter buttons or what are icons, whatever it is. So I'm going to use the first filter, the one that says filter teachers, and it's the white one. Okay. Generally, if I'm talking to you about the whiteboard, I'll tell you to go to the white funnel because it looks like a funnel to me. So that's the teacher filter. Okay. It's going to default to the first department in your course catalog, the first time you come in. After you've saved something in the whiteboard, you will always come back to the last thing that you saved. So I'm going to deselect AIS because I do not currently want to see AIS. What I want to start with for this schedule are my core classes. You might actually want to start with things that are singletons and then your doubletons and things like that. So I'm going to start with English, math, and science and social studies, my 4 cores. And I'm going to hit this reset button. Okay. It's a refresh reset. And now I have my teachers. Okay. And I still don't have classes because I started out with a blank schedule. All right. I want to be able to manipulate this as I go. All right. So how do I get classes added to this? All right. So adding classes is going to the green plus, which says add new section. The purple plus, and you may not see this initially going into the whiteboard if you don't currently use duties, but that is the faculty duty add button. Okay, so I'm going to use the green add sections. Okay, let's start with Sylvia Adkins. She is a social studies teacher. So I'm going to go to the social studies department. And what does she teach? Okay, so this teacher happens to be my, let's say she's my global history and my US history teacher. So for global history, she has 2 sections of global history, and her room, let's say, is 202. Okay, and I can't have more than, let's say 30. We're going to have big classes, so we're going to say 30. And it's a graded class. And it meets all year, every day. Okay, so the reason that I'm doing this is if I were putting it in a single period, which I could start with 1 in a single period and then drag the other one, it doesn't matter. Generally, when I'm adding these, if I'm using period based, I'm only going to add 1 at a time because I only need 1 in that period. Or I can add 2 in that period and drag the other one to where I want it to be. I just use supplemental because it puts them all at the beginning, and then I could add all my classes first and then drag them. So I'm going to use the global history and geography 9, and she has 2 sections of that, and I'm going to add them. Didn't I use Sylvia Adkins? Pretty sure I did. Let's do this again. Let's do period 1, just in case I don't have the right supplemental up here. Because again, it's going to only go in things that you have filtered in. And Sylvia Atkins, and I'm gonna, let me try a different teacher, because I wonder if that teacher is not active or something. It doesn't make sense to me, but this is a great training, isn't it? Nothing works. So algebra 1, let's use first period. I'm going to say 2 sections again. I'm not going to put a room in case it's a room issue. And I want Jeremy Alderman. You notice Sylvia Atkins says she's not available. See the red? That's telling me that she's already scheduled in a class in first period. I did just put classes in first period for her. So it is telling me she's not available there. She's got something already scheduled. I don't know where the classes are, but apparently they're there. This is interesting. I don't know why nothing's showing. Let me save. Let me go out. And just for giggles, I'm going to go into the editor and see if they're there. So social studies. Oh, and look at that. I have 4 sections. This is going to be a very bad training if I can't show you what I'm talking about. Oh, and I didn't even, did I not save? There they are. I don't know what happened. So here's those sections. I'm going to save that, exit, and because I saved that, it should default back to those. There we go. All right. So this is what I should see. Apologize for the mix up. I don't know what happened. That should not happen to you. If that happens, please let us know, because that's not natural. So I have my sections here, and now what I can do within the whiteboard, and the reason I like the whiteboard is because you can drag and drop, okay? As long as the sections are white in the middle, which means there's no students, I can move them. And again, the visual that I was talking about, the red writing indicates that something is double booked, or that teacher or class or something is not correct. There's something wrong with it. So if I take one of these global histories and I move it to another period, that fixes my problem. Same thing with algebra here. I'm going to move it to another period and it fixes my problem. So the visual is nice because I can tell when I go in, before I start putting my kids in my classes, I know that I got to fix something. This is a mess. It's wrong. There are instances where you might double book a teacher, say a special education teacher, and they're teaching a grade 8 math and a grade 9 math, or 9 and 10 or something like that. I might have to build a section for each one so I can put the kids in the correct grade level. That would be a true double book, and that's okay. So you just want to review them and make sure that it's something that isn't wrong. Okay. For some reason, I have my supplementals in here. It's showing as being filtered out. I don't know why. Oh, and it is. So they're filtered out, and that's why I'm not seeing it. So I'm going to put one of them back in, and there's those classes. And so it didn't open properly the first time for whatever reason. But here's those extra ones that I have. If I don't need them, I can delete them. So how would I delete a section? Because there's no delete button down here. You have to go into the section details, which is the green button, and it opens it up, and it looks kind of like it does when it's in the master schedule editor, you know, the same information. I can delete that section. And what it does is it renumbers my other sections, or well, it should when I save. So I'm going to delete this. Now these are still 3 and 4, but if I save, it should update them. Now it's 1 and 2. And they are now orange. Remember when I mentioned the colors, the blue being singleton, purple or the orange being a doubleton, purple being a tripleton, and green being 4 or more. And you will eventually get used to those colors without having to look it up. So let me go back to my PowerPoint and we'll go back to this. Okay, so that was the whiteboard. So I showed you how to get into it. I showed you how to use the filters. I showed you how to exit. You save and then you use the green arrow to get out. So those are the important things to remember about the whiteboard. So again, the whiteboard view is the little icon there. And this is the filters that I showed you. This is a nice slide that I will send this whole PowerPoint out to everybody. This is a slide that indicates the filtering of the departments. So when you filter the departments, that pulls in the teachers attached to those departments. So I'm going to get to something else in a minute about departments and faculty members. So choosing the department here is what determines what faculty and courses you're going to see. So if you have a math class, perhaps, that might be taught by a science teacher, if you don't have the science department also checked, you're not going to find that science teacher in the dropdown when you go to add that math class. So you will have to go back to the whiteboard screen, open the filter back up, add the science department, and then that teacher will then be visible. Okay, so that's the filters. So here's an in-depth screen on the icons at the bottom, and I didn't include every single one of them, but I will explain them all. So the first icon there, the one that has, it looks like a piece of paper, that is the actual menu. The menu, which I will show you in a moment, will allow you to filter the departments in different ways or filter your information in different ways. You can filter by teacher, you can filter by team if you use teaming, and you can filter by department. Department will then bring all your English classes together, all your science together, etc. in alphabetical order. If you don't do it that way, it automatically goes alphabetically by teacher. So whichever way is more comfortable for you. I'm going to skip the printer icon. I don't like this printer, so I'm going to skip it for now. The next one is the save icon. Okay, the save icon is the one that you are, it's just like anywhere else in Schooltool. If you make changes here and you don't save, you're going to lose your information. I would say if you're going to be doing a lot of work in the master schedule whiteboard, save intermittently. If I work on one teacher's whole class list, save before I go to the next one. If I'm working on one department making some changes, save before I go to the next one. Intermittently save so you don't lose information, because if you get logged out or timed out, you have to go you have a fire drill or something and it's left up, and then you get timed out when you come back, you're going to lose that information. Or when you leave, if you exit, if you read the options wrong because they're the opposite of the way they are in the regular scheduling screens, and I'll mention that too, I'll touch on that. You want to make sure that you're choosing the right one if you truly want to save, so you don't lose that information. The green plus and the purple plus. The green plus is adding courses, the purple plus is adding duties. It's nice to use the duties in the whiteboard. The duties are a totally different color. The tiles show up yellow, and it will break down where you can't put a class. So again, if your administrator has specific teachers that they need to have for duties, I need this teacher to do ISS. I need this teacher to do lunchroom duty. They need to be in these periods. Plug those in ahead of time, then you'll see it when you go to schedule things. The blue refresh icon, that will refresh the screen without saving it. So when you add your courses, the colors don't change until you save it. So if you're not sure you want to save the changes, use the update button and it'll change the tile colors without actually being a true save. Okay, then you've got your filter icons. The white filter is for the departments. The purple filter is for periods, and the blue filter is for courses. So you can go right straight down to courses. You can filter out a specific course. I just want to see that course. Or you can't do multiple courses, which I hate. I've asked for that. so that you could have a couple of courses listed to see, because if they're like competing with each other, I want to see them both on at the same time. You can't do that. You can do like one course at a time. The next one where you see the little white funnel with an X in it, that's, I want to remove all the filters. I can't remember all the filters I got in here. I just want to go back to the initial blank whiteboard. You can just hit that X and it deletes all the filters, and it brings all your periods back, all your courses, all your, you know, all your faculty. It will default to the first department again, and then you have to refilter. The green arrow, please, 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 always when you're exiting Schooltool, exit with the green arrow. Don't use the red, black X up at the top that exits you out of the entire. I know it looks like it's a whole totally different screen, but you're still in Schooltool. So in order to get back, like anything else in Schooltool where we say don't use the browser buttons to go back and forth, same thing here. Please use the green arrow to get out. Then next to that is a red circle with a question mark in it. That can be your friend. Okay, if you are not at school or you don't have a hard copy of the document I'll send you on whiteboard filters and all the information on the whiteboard, which is very thick, you might not want to print it out. But if you don't have that document with you and you want to see what were the colors again, I can't remember. Click on that help icon, scroll a little bit, the colors will come up. It'll tell you all about the whiteboard. Then if it's if you need to find out how do I get teachers, scroll through the help desk or help icon, it'll tell you. There's other hyperlinks at the bottom that will bring you to different things, and it gives you step-by-step instructions. If it's outside of hours, that you can call us, because if you call us, we will help you as well. Okay, next screen. What is my next screen? Okay, so now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of the faculty. So obviously, we're using the department filters to pull teachers in, okay? So that means that our teachers have to be in the correct departments. This is why our elementary can't really use this as well. First of all, elementary teachers can be in a department called elementary. Some have elementary gen ed, and then they have elementary special subjects. They might have art, music, science, all those different ones. So they could all be in different departments. They also don't use periods. So every class is in supplemental, and it would be a big list. So for our secondary, middle school and high school, what we want to do is make sure that our teachers are in the right departments. This doesn't have to do with their type. As you can see, the type up here says high school teacher. It's the department that we're worried about. Is this an English teacher? And this is going to also go towards something that Darcy will cover at the end about making sure that your teachers are only teaching courses that they're certified in, that they can teach based on their qualifications. So make sure your teachers are put in the correct departments. If they're not, and you don't see them in the whiteboard where they should be, let us know. We can go in and change a department as long as we're not changing the other information. We can't change like the buildings and all that stuff without some more approval, but a department we can fix for you. All right, if we need to fix where those teachers lie. So under the faculty module, when you search for a faculty member, you would click on the blue arrow and look at their faculty information to see that they're in the correct spot. So what do I mean? Let me show you. Okay, so I'm going to save this and get out of my whiteboard. Okay, that was the appropriate way. I saved and I exited with the green arrow. So for faculty, if I don't see a faculty member that I feel I should see, I'm going to go to the faculty module. Brings me right up to this faculty list search area. All right, my name in here is Wendell Creel. Welcome, I'm Wendell Creel. So you search for the teacher here, you see their record. All right, so you want to click on this blue arrow to get you to the details. The department is listed on that first screen, but you might want to check their room number and different things like that. So you can go into this area and you will see the rest of the information, okay? You'll see their room number, their department, their faculty ID number, which again, Darcy will touch on later, special education and English as a new language, those indicators. Now, not everybody has access to edit this information. So if you do not see this edit paper here, somebody else is going to have to edit this for you. If you have that edit paper, go ahead. Obviously you've got the rights to do this. You can go in and edit. Just be sure that you're editing only information that you should be editing, okay? So this student is Wendell Creel, female, that's me. Then you come down here and you see that if there's a homeroom that's attached to the teacher, that's what this room is here. So that's the homeroom I'm going to put on a student's record to attach them to a homeroom roster. The department is here. So there's many departments. Now I'm not going to see Wendell Creel in my whiteboard if I don't use the RIC staff department. So if I'm looking for this particular teacher, that has to be one of my filters. So it gets tricky with, if you're not seeing a teacher that you think you should see, there's one of two things wrong. They're not active. They're not in, I guess there's multiple things, not two. They're not active. They're not in the correct building, or they're not in the right department. So you can come to the faculty module if you have access to that, search the student or search the faculty member, click that blue arrow and check this information. Again, you may not be able to change anything, but you can at least see it to know what the issue might be. And it might just be that that teacher is under the science department. So you just need to make sure you add the science department to your filter. Okay. So that's a very important piece of the whiteboard, is knowing that they are in the right department. All right, so I'm going to just pause here. Does anyone have questions on any of that so far?
Yes, this is Mary Ellen from Indian River.
Okay, hi, Mary Ellen.
Hi, all of our teachers are not coded in their department. They're listed as a teacher.
Now, when you say they're listed as a teacher, the department is listed as teacher, or the type? Okay.
Yes.
Can I jump in, Mary?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
They have to be
Yes.
listed as a teacher because they're connected to AD. So the workaround is using, if you're going to use the whiteboard, you go by the subject instead of the departments.
Yeah, choose the department of teacher to pull them in, and then filter your subject. Yeah.
And then I guess kind of we roll over our master. And so it's easy to do that way. I can filter them by subject that they teach, but I often find that the changes I make in the whiteboard are not in Master Schedule Editor.
They absolutely should be. So it is possible. Now,
it's been a couple years.
And I'm not saying you're doing this. Okay. I'm not saying that it couldn't be a total issue, because we do run into these issues from time to time that we can't explain, that shouldn't be happening, but are happening, and we know they're happening. So, so if that happens, please let us know, because it should not.
Okay.
What could be happening is what I'm going to show you right now. So under master schedule, again, I'm just going to talk through where I'm going. Make sure I have the right building and the correct school year. I'm going to go back into my, what I'm going to do first, let me do what you're talking about. I'm going to import my schedule just so that I have some more information. So I'm going to import, this is going to overwrite what I just did, but it's going to bring in last year's schedule for me. Okay. So notice that now it's called this rather than blank. I might want to change that real quick, and you can only change that in the editor. So I'm just going to call it updated schedule, just for myself, because I don't like it when it says import from import, I hate that. That's just a me thing. So I'm going to go to the editor, and you can update the name of the master schedule whenever you want. So if you've imported a backup or something like that, the name changes to some weird thing, just go in and edit it back to 23, 24 master schedule if it makes you more comfortable. I like it to be clean like that myself, just because then I know what I'm looking at. So here is what comes in if I do that. It's still bringing me back to the departments I had filtered last. And the last time I was in here, I just did social studies and math, but it's bringing in their schedules now. So now I have other things to work with, and I can see those teacher duties, those faculty duties. So a teacher lunch is yellow. Okay. If the teacher's lunch has to be there, I have to work around that. I can't put a class there because if I try to put a class there, this is what happens. Okay. So that's why I like the visual of the whiteboard, the red text. It tells me what I can't do. If I'm going to start out with those duties, then I want to go in and I want to put the duties in the right spot. All right. And then I know if there's a duty in there, it has to stay there. If I have duties in there from the previous year, because when you roll over your schedule, it rolls over the duties too. And there's no way to just delete them all, which we've asked for a feature request on that. And unfortunately, Mindex is so busy with all the other things they're doing, they haven't had a chance to actually put that even on a list. It's not high on their priorities right now. But it would be nice if we could just roll over the schedule and delete all duties. But if not, you can just pull them over into the supplemental, just drag them over to supplemental and leave them there. And then if you have a duty that is set in stone, the administrator says, just before you start schedule anything, this teacher needs to be in lunch for lunch duty or whatever. Click on the green plus. Let's see, ISS. I have a teacher that has to be in ISS for 6th period. And that teacher is this one. Okay. I'm going to pick the ISS. I can put the period in so it goes right to the right spot, or I can leave it supplemental and drag it either way. If there's an ISS room, then you could put ISS there. I don't see a room called ISS. And then you put his name and refresh it. The room number here is generally not a real big deal unless like you have a corridor that they have to report to this corridor and you want it to show. You might put that corridor in as a room or whatever, but here is the ISS. Now, these are all in supplemental. I don't care about them yet, but he has to have ISS here, so I have to work around that. So that's a helpful hint. So what might be happening, Mary Ellen, and again, I'm not saying that you're doing this, is it's possible that when you're done, you are clicking here, or you might be clicking this X. If you haven't saved and you click this X, you're going to lose everything because that's not the way you exit the whiteboard, first of all. And second of all, you didn't save. And because this is outside of Schooltool, it's within your browser, it's not going to give you that save message. So if you've done this and you think you saved and you exit this way, nothing saved. Okay, so that's one option. The other option is when you clicked on this, you read this wrong, because in a student's schedule, when you make a change to the schedule and you go to exit and you haven't saved, the message says you have changes in the schedule that you have not saved. Click OK to exit anyway, or click cancel. If you hit cancel, then you can go back and save, and then you leave and no problem. You have to hit cancel to go back to save, and you click OK to leave without making the changes. In here, if you click OK, you're saving and exiting. If you click cancel, you're exiting without saving. So if you haven't read that and you're not aware that the message is reversed here, you might be clicking cancel thinking you're saving. So that's a very good possibility as well. Okay. I'm again not saying that's what's happening. It's possible there was a bug or something when you were using it. Could have been in your database. It could have been in Schooltool. It could have been a glitch. We don't know at this point, but that is a possibility. Clicking the X in the browser doesn't save anything and you don't get a message. Clicking the return and not reading the messages and saying, okay, okay means I'm saying, or cancel means I'm saving. You cancel and you're out and you've lost everything. So it's possible something like that has happened. I'm not saying that's what happened, but those are some options of what could have happened. Anybody else have questions up to this point?
Nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat? Okay.
Nope.
So that's the faculty record. Let's get back to the whiteboard again, okay? So my favorite piece about the whiteboard and the thing I love playing with is drag and drop. I love playing with it on an interactive whiteboard. So if you have one of those whiteboards that's calibrated properly and you can click on it and drag it with your finger, and you can click the plus and you can add classes with your finger on that screen, and you have somebody else in the room that can sit back and watch the big board, you can find mistakes just doing that by having somebody doing it up on the screen and the person in the back is watching what you're doing. And like, I see a problem with that already, because sometimes that wide view of the schedule from standing back is very helpful. So drag and drop, I love. You can drag and drop with your mouse. It's a left click and drag, and then release to drop it. Okay, so that's how you would do the drag and drop. The tile colors change once students are in there. So they start out this nice white color, as you can see here, and they go to gray, like a section's grayed out in the master schedule editor. The tile will be gray. Okay, so the inside of it will be gray. So instead of being white on the inside here, it'll be gray with black text. Okay. Then here's the color scheme. You can find this in help. You just have to scroll down just a tiny bit and those colors come up. The light blue, now when I say the light blue, that's the outside of the tile, out around the outside. Light blue means that it's a singleton. There's only one of these classes anywhere in the schedule. Orange means there's only 2 of them. So again, you have to be careful of placement of these classes. The purple means there's 3. You have a little more flexibility with the purple ones. And the green ones can pretty much go anywhere because there's 4 or more of those. Okay. Again, the white tiles mean there's no students attached to them. The gray filled tiles mean that there's kids in there. You can't move those. You can't change periods. You can change teachers. You can drag it from one teacher to the next, but you can't move the period because it will affect kids. Okay. The yellow filled tiles are those duties that I mentioned. Red text, my favorite thing, bar none about whiteboard, is the red text. I can find a mistake without having to look through a section load report and run my kids and all that other nonsense that generally makes me find it, or look through that big long double book report, because that will show me errors as well. But sometimes there's like the gym will show up on there, and I know my gym is double booked. So you'll see that room double book all over the place in there. So this is quicker, faster, easier to see. Okay. And then the section details button is that green one. Again, as I showed you, when you click that green button, it opens the details of that section. So you can make your changes. You can see where it is. Teaming will show up in there. You don't see teaming on the tile, but if you click on the section button, you'll see the teaming within there. The room can be changed there, or you can drag it to a different room. I mean, you can't really drag it to a different room because the rooms sometimes are attached to the teacher, as you can see here. And that room that shows here is a home room. Okay, that's the room that teacher has as a home room. It may be their room all day long, but it's also a home room that's attached to that teacher. Okay, so again, the tiles will change colors once you've saved or used that refresh, which was the double arrows, the 2 little arrow things. If you click that refresh, that'll update the screen too. It's not a save, but it will update those colors for you to make it easier because that visual is nice. But again, it's not a save. You're still going to have to save those changes. It will just update those tiles for you. Okay. So all of the same information that you would see in the editor is available here on this screen. It's just a bigger view. Instead of seeing one course at a time, I can see multiple courses for a teacher. I can show multiple departments where I'm only seeing one department and one course at a time in the master schedule editor. It will show me in red text when I'm double booking somebody, which I don't see in the master schedule editor. If I double book somebody, it allows me to do it. Then I have to run a report to find out that I've double booked that person. So this is just a nice it's quicker to see those double books. The red flags still show up here. You see them right in the tile. So instead of a green details button, you have a red flag. It's the same thing. You click that red flag, it opens up the section, and it will tell you at the bottom why there's a flag. Okay, you don't have enough seats. There's this many requests. There's this many seats. It's not going to meet your needs. Okay, so that's there. There's also a little mini matrix within that details. So if you need to see like high level class section or periods with the most classes where it might bump up against more things. There's a little mini matrix in there, and I'll show you that in a second. But all of this information is available in the whiteboard, but it's going to be easier to see than when you're in the master schedule editor. If I save these changes, it should update the master schedule editor, and it should do that, Mary Ellen. It really should. Once you've saved that, if you went into the master schedule editor, you should see all those changes. Now, the one thing about the whiteboard, and I'm not sure if I have a slide for this, so let me go forward and just see what comes up. Here we go, reminders, okay? And then I'll go back into the whiteboard and do a few things so that you can see some more of what that whiteboard has to offer before I turn it over to Darcy. So when a person is using the whiteboard, they take control of the entire schedule, okay? So if a person's in the whiteboard, people can't use the master schedule editor. You can go into it, but you won't have the save icons. So be careful. When you enter it, you'll get a message that says, Annalise Currency is in the whiteboard and has been since this time. You will not be able to save your changes. Heed that warning. Don't start doing things in there and think you're going to save it at the end, because anything you do in there, it'll let you do things, but you can't save it, okay? Because the other person would be able to get to that class and do the same thing you're doing. Whereas in the master schedule editor, everybody's only in one class at a time. In the whiteboard, they got everything. So that's why the whiteboard takes control of the whole schedule. But if you're in the master schedule editor, you can all be working at the same time. So that's another plus to the editor. If you're taking a big schedule that you've worked on by hand, and now you have to get it in Schooltool and you want to verify it, somebody can take math, somebody could take science, somebody could take social studies, you could all work on it at the same time, okay? Watch for the red text when you're in the whiteboard, because if you're trying to choose a teacher, if you see them in red, don't just say, oh, that's weird, and choose them anyway. That teacher is not available in that period. And then you will end up seeing the double book when you save it. Okay, so the red is there for a reason. It indicates an issue with either that teacher or the room or the class itself. You can drag and drop to move tiles anywhere on the screen, periods, teachers, anything, as long as they're not gray. If the tile turns gray and there's students attached, it's just like in the master schedule editor where it's a grayed out section. You cannot change the period because you will be affecting student schedules. You could change a teacher still, so you could drag it to a different teacher and drop it there in that period if you needed to move it from that other teacher and then give them one of the other teacher's classes or something. You will not see any data if you don't have departments chosen. So again, if you go in there and your screen is blank, it's not broken. You have to start filtering and find those departments that you want to see. And if you save anything, the next time you come into the editor, it will default to what you saved last. If you choose filters and you don't make any changes, you do some things and you decide you're not going to save it yet, you're going to work on it some more and come back in later, and you don't save it, when the next time you come in, you're going to get that blank screen again because you didn't save anything yet. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. And it is helpful to review the whiteboard before you do runs. Choose all your departments, just choose everything, look through that and look for that red text. If you see any red text, review that. Make sure that you meant to do that. If you didn't mean to do that, you want to check, you want to fix that now before you start putting kids in there, because hey, your schedule's at 95%, but you got 3 double book classes. Once you move those, you're down to 85%. So check them first before you have to do all that work, and try to avoid having those issues. All right. So before I turn it over to Darcy, let me ask if anybody has any questions on whiteboard at all. Do you want to see anything else? I know I went through it pretty quickly. I can show you other things in there if you want to see more. I showed you the filters. Let me just show you a little bit more on the filters real quick before I open it up to other topics. So the first filter again is the teacher filter. Okay, that's the departments. You're only going to see the departments that you chose. So far, I only have math and social studies. Let me add art. And as you can see, art came down here and one art teacher, it looks like, but those classes came in. So now I can compare. Again, here's a blue tile. So if a student chooses graphic design and they also want pre-calculus, then they are going to have pre-calculus here. Okay, so if you find a bunch of blue tiles here and any of those kids want pre-calc, you're going to be filling this class up pretty quick. So again, these colors are so helpful for placement wise. If you place a bunch, like if this one was here and this one was here, and then this one was here, you better be sure that your English 9-10 kids aren't also asking for graphic design or this one, because then you're going to have trouble getting them in. Okay, so the colors are really great to know. So the first filter is what you're going to see department wise and teacher wise. The second one is, okay, I have a supplemental. When I first come in, I see every single period. Okay, the supplemental is at the beginning and at the end. It's exactly the same thing. So if you have classes in supplemental, they're going to be, it looks like they're duplicated, but it's the same ones. They're at the back of it and they're at the front of it. So if it's a 6, 7, 8 class, you can drag it from this side. If it's a 1, 2, 3 class, you can drag it from this side. Once you've moved it from either supplemental section, it's gone from the other because it really isn't duplicated. All right. So if I want to avoid that, and I just want the supplementals to be at the beginning, I can say, I only want supplementals at the front. I don't want to see them twice. And then maybe this BOCES S5 is only for BOCES kids, and I'm not worried about BOCES kids right now. So I might deselect that. And then when I update the filters, now I only see what I asked for, and it maybe helps it fit on the screen better. I know there's some districts that have a lot of periods. You have a lot of overlapping things and some little ones that are put in there for a specific grade level. So you may have a lot. What I would suggest is if there's periods that are a specific grade level, filter those out and work on that area first. Get that done and out of the way. Then take those periods out and work on the rest. So there are some tips that'll help you to be able to use Whiteboard if you've been afraid of it in the past for things like that. I see too many periods. Like in Mary Ellen's case, if all of your teachers are under that one department and it's everybody, you still will only see teachers that have access to your building, but you may have a middle school teacher that also has access to high school. So you're going to see maybe a teacher that you don't use. You can't take them out because they have access to the building and they're in that department, so they're going to pull in. But you could go to this blue filter courses icon and say, I only want to see courses in the art department. Keep them all checked and refresh. You can show 2 courses in the same department, but you can't show 2 departments at the same time if you do this. So if I do this now, okay, so I see studio and art down here, studio and ceramics, the teacher lunch, and that's what I'm seeing. So if I say I just want to see studio and art and studio and ceramics, it will filter out everything else. Everything else is gone, just the art department and just those classes I asked for. All right. If I decide that there's a, again, there's a one class grade level that uses a specific period, I can deselect everything but that period. So, or periods, say there was multiple. And then that's all I'm going to see. And then I can work on just that, just those periods, get that grade level done. Then I can remove those from the rest of it as I'm working on the rest of it. Doesn't always work, but some tips on how to use those. Okay. That first menu, that first icon that I showed you, the menu icon, that's where you can go ahead and you can sort based on the name, which is how it defaults, alphabetically by name, by the department. So then it will move your departments around. See, art is at the top now. It's going to go alpha by department. So it goes art, math, social studies. Okay, so it's going to filter that way. Or I can sort by team, but you have to have teaming in. And if you have teaming in, it'll redo it that way. Okay, if there's no teaming, it's not going to help you to do team. Okay, the dreaded printer icon. You can try using it, but I can guarantee you're not going to get what you want. Okay, unless you have a straight 1 through 9 period structure with no overlapping periods or anything like that, this is not going to be helpful. We have brought this up to Mindex multiple times, but the problem is that the way that they've built the master schedule whiteboard, there's only one way to run reports through it, and those reports are not printer friendly. They don't go with like the crystal reports or anything like that, where you can shrink it to the page and all that. So you have to work on margins and all different kinds of things. You can try doing an 8x5. It'll give you some tips, okay, tell you go to the online help and see which one's better. And you can try it. Again, you just go through here. You might want to change to landscape rather than portrait, and do some of those things, but it doesn't work great. It's just not a great option for printing your master schedule. It would be wonderful, because I know a lot of people like to have that master schedule. Once it's finalized, you want to get it printed out. And if we could just use this, that'd be great, but it doesn't work right now. All right, so you can try it, work with it, see if you can make something work for yourself, but the majority of districts, Mary Ellen, you're never going to get this to work. So certain districts just won't get it to work. It just won't work for them. Again, this is the reset filters. So if I click on this, it's going to go back to the beginning, the default. And then again, to exit, I'm going to use my done arrow. It says I have changes I haven't saved. Again, okay to save them, or cancel to exit without saving. And that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to save that because I want it to come back with what I had before. All right. I know that was kind of quick on the whiteboard. I just wanted to show it again, try it. I mean, honestly, I believe it's a very good tool. There are some little things. There's still an alignment issue. If you have teachers that have like quarterly classes and it makes their tile, so let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if there's a teacher that has many classes in the same period, it generates a tile for each one of those classes. What happens is this cell gets bigger to accommodate those extra classes. This cell does not. Therefore, your alignment will be off. So now where there's extra classes here, they aren't Jared's. Jared's classes are down here, or they're up here, or, you know, it's odd the way that it goes. We've mentioned it to them. It is in as a bug. So we're hoping that they work on the bug to get it fixed, but it is still worth using the whiteboard, because if you're not sure, if they don't line up exactly right, you can look at a course and you generally know, okay, those are Jared's courses, but just click this real quick, look at it. Okay, yes, it is. They are his classes. So I know that that's the line I'm looking at. It is a little off-putting, but Mindex knows about it. They're trying to work on it. When they get a chance, when they get some time away from state reporting issues, maybe they'll have some time to look at it. But it is still worth using. I think it would still be visually helpful. Okay, so that alignment issue we know about, and the printer issue we know about. All right, that's it for me. I am done speaking. Okay, so does anybody have questions for me, whether it's whiteboard related or other scheduling questions that I can help you with right now before I turn this over to Darcy?
I have a question.
Yes.
So are there any updates to the master schedule builder? Is there any new progress with that, with using that? We use it.
There is no progress with the scheduling module whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes, doesn't matter. I am the queen of putting in feature requests and putting in bug notices and all of those things, because that's what I do generally. I get, okay, we'll put it into the feature request. Oh, okay, it's a bug. And I'll put in another ticket and say, hey, any information? Oh, it's a bug. Yeah, I know it is. What are you doing about that bug? So I know that with state reporting, and they're refactoring the grade books and they're updating the look and feel, scheduling has just been put on the back burner. As much as it's very important to us, Other RICs think other things are more important. So they have to weigh what the RICs are asking for. And unfortunately, scheduling is down, not even on the board right now. So we know about it. We'd love for it to be fixed. I mean, it's still helpful. It's just not, it's not great. I mean, they need to get some reporting in there. We need to know why something isn't working. Tell me why I didn't get 4 sections. I asked for 4 sections. I only got 3. Why? Don't make me look through everything. You know, I mean, we get it. I do. I get it. I feel your pain because I have to try to explain it to people, and it's hard to explain because I know it's been wrong for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And I know I've mentioned it to them, and it's just, and this isn't a dig at Mindex because they do have so much on their plate right now, and they are hiring. They have hired a lot of new people. I don't know if anybody's heard, we've entered like a bunch of new Mindex people for support and things like that. They do have a lot of new staff, and that's a wonderful thing. They do have some new training staff that are calling us and asking us questions. The other day, I just talked to a group of them, and I did mention whiteboard issues and things like that. So they're listening and they do care. They just have to, again, weigh the needs of every RIC that they work with, because again, this is a full New York State product. And it's just not on the board right now. They feel our pain. They know. I think they hate hearing from me. They see my name and they don't want to see what I have to say anymore. But yeah, no progress on really anything in master schedule. So that's why you don't have any updates from me. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else want some disappointing news? You got anything that I can disappoint you on? I tease. I hopefully I have answers for you. Okay, nobody else scheduling? That's wonderful. So what I'm going to do is, because we've been on for quite some time now, let's do a 10-minute break. I know that brings us back 5 minutes before the hour, but I don't want to waste too much time because I know Darcy's got a lot to go over with us. So why don't we take a 10-minute break in case anybody needs to step away for a moment. And when we come back from that break, we'll have Darcy get started with what she has to cover for us. And it's very important, good information. So I think everybody will benefit from it. So hopefully you don't have to jump off. I know this went a little late, 3 o'clock. I don't know if that's later than you normally stay, but I appreciate your attention and your time. So we'll take that 10-minute break and I'll see you back at about 5 of, okay? Here, let's go. All right, so now that we're back, I'm going to turn this over to Darcy LePetra French. She is one of my coworkers. She works between Schooltool and the data team. She's kind of like our liaison between the two and helps us keep everything straight because we know that the state is asking for all kinds of crazy stuff. And we just want to make sure that you all are armed with all the information that you can get between scheduling and faculty and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and send this over to Darcy.
Thanks, Annalise. Yeah, so I have supported Schooltool for quite a few years, and I've been working in the data team for the last few years. And there's so much that goes up to the state that comes from Schooltool, not solely from Schooltool, but most of it does. So I just wanted to go over a few things, settings in the master schedule, your course catalog, and some other things that people might have been talking to you about, and maybe you don't realize why they're talking to you so much about it because the state has changed how we do some of the reporting recently. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. So first off, what I want to do is talk about a couple of resources that we've got. One of them is the state course catalog, and you can really get here just by Googling NYSED course catalog. It's the first result that comes up. And what you want to look for is the course comprehensive, or the New York State Comprehensive Course Catalog Workbook. This opens as a giant Excel spreadsheet, and you can go through it, look for all the different state course codes that are in there, including there's a tab also that will show you what was recently discontinued, new entries, and even course codes that are just dedicated for special education. That also helps. And in here too, you see that there's a listing for the state course codes for courses leading to a state exam. It used to be hosted right here, and you can see that it was moved to the SIRS manual. So I'm just going to click that from here, go into the SIRS manual itself, and I'm just going to start searching for state course code. And then I can jump to it right here. So these are all of the course codes that the state expects you to report for anything connected to a state exam. So starting at if we begin at secondary level, we're talking probably about grade 7 and up. And here's all of the Regents course codes. Often you'll get emails, or you may get emails from us saying, hey, we don't see anything mapped to, say, Algebra 1. And that might just be, oh, we started a new course and whoops, we forgot to map it, or things like that. We look for things in your course catalog on occasion. It's not constant, so it's always good to keep an eye on what's going on with your course catalog, especially I think it begins next year. I think we're going to be in a period of change again for our Regents exams. So we may have to be looking at this quite closely starting next year. So keep that in mind. But this information is always at the same location. Looks like from now on, this table is going to always be found in the SIRS manual. So just keep an eye on that. There's also, you know, some little explanations about what you should be reporting, any other cases here. Okay, so let us go right into the course catalog. Uh-oh, did it log me out? No, it didn't. Yay. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to hop into the course catalog. And one of the first things I want to talk about is your course number or your course ID. So the course ID should only ever be 12 characters long. And the reason for that is because Schooltool will only export the first 12 characters. So that's pretty easy. A lot of people do like to name the course number to be the same exact name. The other thing is too, Schooltool will let you type in more than 12 characters here, but it will only ever export 12. So try to keep this as short as possible. I shrink these up all the time for the districts I work with. Like naming them different numbers, things like that. Now, if you try to use a number that's already in use on an active course in your catalog somewhere, Schooltool will give you an error message. The other thing is too, it didn't always do that. So we've rolled over your course catalog. Most of the time, it's year after year, we roll over the same course catalog, especially at the secondary level, because you have a lot of courses there. Because Schooltool didn't always validate this number, sometimes in troubleshooting some data, especially trying to make sure that staff are being reported with the correct certifications and things like that, we'll be going over courses and saying, why is our art teacher reporting with woodworking? That doesn't make sense. And it's because woodworking has the same ID as art. and it was set like that a long time ago. And we just didn't notice until we happened to look at a validation report on level 2. So you're not crazy. It's Schooltool. It's not you. So what you have to do is come in here, change the course number, and make sure it's as short and sweet as possible. Because if two things are named the same thing, they will basically have a mortal combat when they get to level 0, and whoever wins wins. Kind of like the Thunderdome. Only one will leave. That's the same idea. And because you export your data every day, who knows who's going to be the one that makes it out. So this is one of the things to really pay attention to. Make sure you're naming your course as something short and sweet. The course name is fine. Don't worry about that. It's primarily the course number that we have to be concerned about. Okay. So coming down here, this is where we have the state course mapping. These are the things we have to be super careful on. This data is what links the course up to level 0, connects them to your teachers, connects them to your students, and reports ultimately the expected curriculum that the state is going to look at. This course code also links up to state or staff certifications. So staff certifications are based on what information the teach system has matched against their ID and this course code. So that's complicated. And it's not something you're solely responsible for. Data is always an effort of multiple people at a school district, but you can see how it may start in your office and you may not even realize why people are saying you need to change the course mapping. Well, we have never changed it before. That's why. So the state is also dictating what certification codes match up with what course codes. There is a crosswalk document available to people who have access to the business portal. So typically like your admin, your district data coordinator, And so if you're curious about that document, you can always request that somebody gives you that, and you can actually filter once you know the certification code that teachers have. You can actually see which course codes would work with that set of certifications. Okay, going a little further down here, these are the subjects. Now, typically we only use these at the elementary level. However, we do use them as well for syncing things. So you may be familiar with the CTE box. This indicates that the course is a course that connects with BOCES, and we import marking period progress report grades for that. So don't check or uncheck this unless you know what you're doing for sure. We also have some things that will be specific to roster software that we sync to your system. So just be aware of what those are. 9 times out of 10, if somebody's saying, hey, in insert software here, I'm not seeing this course, it's probably because something's not checked here. But call us to ask and we'll find out what needs to happen. Sometimes it's a box that's here. Sometimes we have to actually give them a course ID. All of the things that are on here in their course catalog, these are yearly, or these are not yearly, I should say. This is static throughout years. Now, we don't go back in time and export, say, like 21, 22 data. We're not going to do something like that, but in August is a weird time. Late July, August is when we tend to shut off your automatic syncing of data to level 0. So you may be in here wanting to change the name on something, but we're still syncing data from the current or the school year that hasn't quite finished yet. Because in the data world, we don't finish until somewhere in August. That's the final due date of everything. So you want to make sure that if you have to come in here and make a change, think about the changes you're trying to make. It doesn't warrant a brand new course, because it might, especially if we're changing Regents curriculum and it's drastic, much more drastic. Like say when we moved to Common Core, that was more drastic than just the US history one that just happened. That in most cases we did not create a new course. So keep that in mind.
I think the thing, I'm sorry, Darcy. I think the key thing to keep in mind there is transcripts. If it's going to affect your transcript and it's going to be negative, if you say you printed a transcript this year and it had this course name on it, and now you want to change it for next year, should you be changing that same course? Because now anybody who took that in the past is going to have the new name. So if I reprinted a transcript for a student who took this course in the previous year, it's going to have the new name on it. So that's something to keep in mind. Do you just inactivate this course for the coming year and create a new one? Or are you going to change the name? I would suggest inactivating and recreating. And in the past, I have said it's okay to reuse course numbers, but now with all this new data and the mapping and all of that stuff, I would suggest not doing that, because if you do end up reactivating that course in the future that you just inactivated and it has the same number as another course, now you have 2 with the same number and you're going to run into this issue. So just in the past, I've always said it was okay, because Mindex always said it was okay as long as the other course is inactive. But now we're running into a lot of people reactivating courses that they've inactivated in the past. Or as Darcy said, if you change the name and now you create a new, it can become a mess if you start to do that. So ignore what I've said in the past. Try not to reuse numbers.
Yeah, it can get difficult. The course number, changing the course number it used to be, I think we had to contact data readiness and warn them that we had changed the course number. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Schooltool will check too if you're changing a course number now and it does match something that's active, it will not let you save it. So at least there's that part. But yeah, especially if you're changing the course name, think about all of the history that's attached to this course. Maybe check to see if we're done exporting or manipulating this data from the course catalog for the current school year. Because we do tend to export data all through the summer. It lessens as we get through August, but still, yeah, just in case. Now down here, this is where we get to the stuff that is yearly. So this information will only apply to the year 22-23, for example. And the things that are most important here, I skipped one thing, I'll go back to it, are going to be items like the post-secondary credit field. If this is a course where kids are eligible to earn post-secondary credit, you can fill out this value here. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about quickly is course minutes. Course minutes used to be a thing that we exported. We have not done that for a few years now. However, that stopped just before the pandemic, and well, certain things got a little more important than talking about course minutes. Now, teachers do still see these in their roster. That's not something that is removed. So if it is something that is important to them, definitely keep that up to date. Typically in the secondary world, we're only scheduling on a period-based schedule. However, if you did have to create a supplemental section for any reason, you can set what those values of course minutes are, but just know that they are not going to the state. So don't worry about that too much. So yeah, we talked quickly about post-secondary credit. There's another partner indicator that goes up here that is dual credit. And when I check this, you'll notice that I get a setting that drops down where I have to report, well, a setting, and I have to say where the course is taking place. If you have courses that are the same course, but they each take place, like you have maybe a other district option or a BOCES option and an in-district option, should you create 3 courses? Yes, technically, because you should be able to report the correct setting. There may be some overrides we can do. I'm not quite sure if the setting is there, if that's something I can override, but we're going to check here in a minute in the grades tab, because there are certain things we can override when it comes to dual credit. And there are some cases we do have to override it, depending on how the student performed. But once you set this, the state calls it an indicator, and this is turning on the indicator to say, hey, this is a course that does earn dual credit, post-secondary credit. So I turn that on first, and then down here, I'm indicating how much post-secondary credit they earn. So if I put in like 6, for example, we're saying that if they pass, they earn 6 credits. The other thing that becomes very important around this time of year, I always recommend you should start reviewing these, are going to be our assessments. Now, we've gone through a rough few years when it comes to the course catalog, and we've made changes at the last second more times than any of us care to remember, but where we may have been changing, removing assessments, all sorts of things. The state assessment is important for our Regents courses, of course. You want to make sure that they're correctly attached. You can find them in here. Now, Regents and any state assessment that we have in here can be custom named. And we do make changes sometimes based on your needs for your transcript, things like that. Typically, they're all under RE something, because it used to be that was the trigger to get them to display on a certain column. I don't think that exists anymore, but a lot of ours have remained that way. So if I was adding Regents CC Algebra 2, I can add it there, and then I need to set what my weighting is. Now, I don't have to set a weight necessarily. If I don't set a weight here, that means that it's not going to count in the final average of the student. However, let's pretend this is going to be a strange exam. Pretend that's another math. Okay, because I can't find one. We may be in a period where, again, we'll be having an option for kids to take more than one assessment. Now, if it is 2 state assessments, we can check this box, and it'll say use the highest state assessment score for the horizontal average, meaning the final average that the student receives. So if I put, like, say, a 10 in each of these, when the scores come back in, Schooltool will take whatever's the highest score of each of these. Now, if I had this one at 20 for some reason and the other one at 10, it doesn't matter what score this one gets. It's always going to be this one because it has a higher weight. So that's a little bit confusing, but that is baked into the setting. I think there hasn't been official guidance on this yet. I think the state, as of last year, they started saying that they discouraged counting the Regents in the overall average. However, that's going to be a district decision, and it may not be made this year. However, if that is something that you would like to start reviewing, there are course reports that we can start to run over here in council. I think it's council or the scheduling. Hold on, I can never remember. It's scheduling course reports. And from there, you can run an entire report to look at everything in your course catalog and how everything is mapped. And then just to see what's in there right now. I recommend you run that anyway, just to take a look, because we have just rolled things haphazardly in some cases, made a lot of last minute changes based on the last couple of years, and you may not know what is in there. I can tell you that we're not going to have any exemptions this year. So I think we should, well, as of right now, we're not going to have any exemptions this year. So any of the courses or the exams in here that you see that may say like living environment exempt, that was only applicable to that school year. We're never going to use that again, hopefully. So don't use that one again. We will run some reports if we do see some things that are mapped incorrectly like that is blatantly wrong. We will know that's for sure wrong. We will tell you and hopefully get that changed. Same thing with something like this. It says last administered January 2001. We don't use this one anymore, obviously, but just in case something gets attached, weird things happen all the time. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have your state exams attached appropriately. If they're attached in your course catalog, that means if it's a Regents exam, when we import your exam scores, they will go right to the course and be right next to the course as part of the grade. Or well, even if they're not part of the grade, as in this weighting's not set, they will appear in the same column. Another thing too to keep in mind with your state course code mappings, especially when it comes to Regents exams, we look at those to pull your pre-printed answer sheets. So you want to make sure that everything's up to date with the current codes as well. Are there any questions on the course catalog part?
Hi, Darcy, I have a question.
Sure.
For the exam piece, where in terms of how much it's counted, we are going from having the Regents exam being 20% of the final average to Regents exams not being part of it anymore and just the local exam being 20%. But we're also looking at if they take a Regents exam and it's higher than the local, we'll use the Regents exam score. Is that something that can be done in this course catalog, or does that have to be done by hand?
It would have to be done by hand.
Okay.
Usually the way that we recommend it is to set these would be set at 0 already. So you'd have like,
Yes.
I'm going to get rid of my weird AP seminar that's in here. And so we'll have this set at 0 and say this set at 20. So what teachers would do is they would put in the final exam. And once the Algebra 2 score got imported in for you, they can run reports on their end, and then they would have to manually override the final exam score.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure if that highest. I didn't realize it was highest state assessment. I wasn't sure if that was.
Yeah, it's a question.
Hoping it would work the other way, but that's okay.
I wish it would. We've actually asked for something like that just says just use the highest score. Ignore the midterm and use everything else.
All right,
that's a great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else before I move on to the next thing? Okay, well, awesome. I did talk about, we'll come back to this part about the, actually, you know what? Let's do it right now. The dual credit and the post-secondary credit. So I'm just going to get out of this course and I'm going to pick on, I think I have a kiddo in here. I've made, if anybody else goes in here and finds things that are broken, it's probably my fault. Okay. Anyway, I'm just going to grab a course just to show you what some of the grade settings are on those dual credit indicators. Because we do have some districts who don't want to set anything on the course catalog itself. They prefer to set it manually on the section, which is a choice. You can do that. I recommend that you do it the other way around, just where it's just reporting all of it and then just make the changes to the ones that don't qualify. But just like everything else in Schooltool, you can approach this from any direction that you want to, if it decides to load the grades tab. I haven't loaded it today. So the first load of the day always takes a while. Please.
Well, you saw what happened to me with the whiteboard.
I know, I was going to say, please don't kick me out. Okay. All right. So if we show the details on the course, we come in here to the permanent record. This is where we can individually say, hey, this actually is dual credit. And they did get 6 credits or however many that you want to report here. Now, if this is a case, let's say we've got a student who signed up for AP English, and the only reason that they're not going to get the credit is because they could not afford the college fee or to take the exam or something like that, then technically, is it still a dual credit course? Yes, it is. So you would still have this on as yes, you don't need to override it as no. But if you did have post-secondary credits set in the course catalog, you could just say override with blank and saying that they didn't earn any post-secondary credit in this course. So that's another question that comes up often. So we're still saying that the student attempted a dual credit course, they just didn't earn any post-secondary credit. Now, if somebody failed, you could come in here and say they did not earn any dual credit and they did not earn any, well, no, you would say it's still a dual credit course, but they did not earn any post-secondary credit.
I think
So
the
the-
reason for that is because districts have to be able to offer the same options to both
Yes.
economically and non-economically sound students. So they want to see the information with the blank ballot.
That's right. So, and sometimes they'll be scheduled into the same course and it might say it's a college course, but we know from the start that these kids from the beginning are not going to be getting any dual credit. So we're just going to take them out. So to them, it's not a dual credit course and it's not a post-secondary course at all because they're not attempting anything that requires the college part. Most of the time it is cost prohibitive. So that's the other thing. I did put this little blurb on the handout I'm going to give you too. So actually, let me show you that real quick. So we're going to go, oh, come on, Zoom, move there. So this is a little bit of a layout, a bit of the summary that we talked about here. And I also put a few codes on here about unique course situations. So we've had some questions recently come up. I think they've been coming up from some of the meetings that Amy Cones does with admin, where they're talking about reporting special classes, special ed, things like that. And so I went through the course or the SIRS manual where they mentioned a few situations. And I thought these course codes might be of use to you if you wanted to put in something. You may have a schedule where your special ed courses or your special ed students aren't attached to a schedule that makes any sense. Or maybe we just can't schedule them because sometimes the way that they do their schedules just defies all laws of time. That happens a lot when I've tried to work on this with different districts. So you'll see that there's a little dot here next to some of these. And these mean that all you have to do is attach a teacher of record. You don't have to attach a roster. You can if you are able to. But if the problem is we just can't, we need to get the teacher reported and indicated that they are a special ed teacher or that they fill one of these settings here, then that way you can at least get the course created and you're still reporting the way that the state expects you to report them. This one's also nice too for special ed teachers not rostered to any sort of gen ed course, serving in an environment like a resource room or tied to another course as a push-in. You can just create a course, name it whatever you want, map it to that code, put them in as a teacher of record, and you're good. There's also a few more codes that are related to these. So if you're trying to create some sort of self-contained environment that's broken down with every subject, there are some special area subjects that you could use too. They seem to require a little bit more finesse and maybe require some sensitive like certification needs. So definitely contact Data Readiness, reach out to us if you want some help with that, and we'll walk you through what you need to do for those. Also wanted to talk about library for your library media specialist. So we're talking somebody who is certified in library and is your librarian. You do not necessarily need to have a roster tied to them, but you do need to have a course. So what I usually do in the districts that I support is I create a course like high school library and just attach the librarian to it. And that's it. So as long as we just have them attached somewhere in there, they don't have to report grades or anything like that. They just need to be attached. Okay. All right, so from there, I'm going to hop into the master schedule. All right. We're going to edit this first one that comes up, and I'm just going to get rid of you, which is technically me. I am Nathan in this database. All right, so we're going to start from the beginning. And we're going to say from what I need to do is update this course, and I need to attach a teacher to it, and I need to backdate it from the start of the year. So this is stuff you probably are very familiar with, but I just want to show you a couple of the recommended ways that we talk about as far as what we tend to do internally, and it might just help with cleaning up some of the data because making changes on some of this really quickly can cause strange data errors, and you might get the error and say, why is it erroring? And it's all because of what's in here in the history. So I'm going to pick myself. And then I'm just going to click on the faculty history clock button. And when I come in here, Schooltool is date driven. So it's going to show today's date as the start date. So what I can do instead, I know already that I need to backdate this to say that the teacher was attached from the start of the school year. So I'm just going to delete this and leave it blank. It's okay to leave the start and end dates blank, especially if they just need to be there for the whole school year. You can always come in here later and make changes to this, but Schooltool does know what the start and end date are based on your calendar and school year configuration. So feel free to use that as a tool. The other thing I need to make sure of is that I'm included in the export. So I'm going to hit the edit button here. And I see that the box is already checked. It checks it by default for everyone. So you want to come in here and make those changes manually if you need to turn it on or off. And there's also a button here for incidental teaching assignment. So incidental teachers are those that are teaching outside of their certification because there's quite a bit of teacher shortage. So you might have a chemistry teacher that's teaching physics, but they're not certified in physics. So what you need to technically do as a district, and this is usually handled by an admin, you have to contact your BOCES and apply for incidental teaching. There's a form that every BOCES has. And once approved, you can come in here and check this box. And what this does at the state level is it will stop showing this teacher as out of cert on the relevant reports. But we can only check it once BOCES has approved it. Okay. So I'm going to go back with all those boxes checked. Now, when I'm looking at Nathan Jones, I can see that the boxes are checked here and here to say that they're exporting. The rank is 1. And by the way, somebody always has to be at rank 1 for any exporting period. So you, if nobody is at rank 1, you'll get an error. If they're at rank 3 or 2 or 100, I've seen some crazy things in there. You just want to make sure that that's fixed and is at 100. Now, if you need to make changes to any of these, you want to click this faculty history button before you do anything, because otherwise, let's do a couple things here. So I'm going to add this person in. I'm going to hit update, and I'm going to add this person in. So I'm going to click on, let's click on the history button. I'm going to make a few changes. So Terry is a TA. Terry helped out from February 1st to February 28th. And Avery Bennett is actually another teacher, but that teacher only started on February 2nd. All right, so now I've got a bunch of course history in here. Whoops, let me go back in here. So, and because I indicated that Terry ended already, so he's gone from the export already because I don't see him on the front because we were past that date. Now I'm going to make a change to Avery because somebody said, hey, Avery shouldn't be exporting because they're actually TA. And I'll say, whoops, okay, I'll just uncheck that box and hit save. And I think I'm done. The problem is I'm not. And so let me show you what I just did by unchecking that box right there. I'm going to click that. So I actually just duplicated Avery and I made him included in export until 3.6. And then from 3.7 on, now he's not included. So I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, well, hold on. He needs to be attached from, from 2.2 on. So what I'm going to do is just delete this because the include and export one doesn't need to be there. And I need to just update this to 2.2 and then make sure the year's in there, or you can pick it from the calendar. And then when I go back, now we're good. It doesn't matter that Avery is at rank 3 because he's not exporting. But that same thing could happen. Maybe the reverse happens and like, oh, whoops, we were actually wrong. He needs to export now. I'm like, okay, and I'll check the box. And then maybe I'll uncheck the box for Nathan. So now I've really broken it. So if I go into the faculty history, now look at the mess that I have just made by unchecking 2 things. So, I mean, technically, if you think about it from Schooltool's perspective, it's doing its job. It said, okay, well, I'm going to stop him from exporting. Because in some cases, maybe they did just only export for a period of time that was short. Maybe it was a long-term sub and they were approved to teach the course. So we attached them to the course so they could report. But now we need to stop them because actually they've left the district. But yeah, so that's why I always say just come into the faculty history and make your changes here, because otherwise people will say it's still erroring and you're like, no, I fixed it. No. So now we have to come in here and fix all this stuff. And it becomes kind of a headache to look through, because not only are you trying to fix this little tangle, you've also got everything else you have to do in a school district with kids coming in and trying to talk to you. So, or other people trying to come in and needing help and things like that. So in this case, if I were to try to fix this, what we want to do is we only want Avery Bennett to be included in the export. Let's get rid of this one. And Avery Bennett should have been included in the export from that point on. And we'll get rid of Nathan Jones because I made a mistake. He should still be just attached to the course, and that's fine. So now what we have is a teacher that is excluded from the export, one that is a teacher of record because they're at rank 1, and Avery Bennett, who's included in the export, but is at rank 3. So what do the ranks actually control? From a state perspective, only the teachers that are at rank 1 will be subjected to the state certification match. So on a given course, if you have more than one teacher at that rank, I believe only one of them makes it in for the certification match, but it's random on who makes it in. So there's that. There is no problem at labeling them both at rank 1 to indicate that they're both teachers of record, but that is how the state certification match system works. So it's completely okay for me to do that. If you want them at different ranks for report card purposes, if they're both at rank 1, it's just going to separate them by alpha. If it does separate them out, if you have them at different ranks, it will display Nathan first and then Avery second in most cases. This is subject to change on custom report cards. All right. So those are the important things in the faculty history button. Just if you have to make changes to that, make them carefully in the faculty history area. There's another thing here called export options. And if I click on this, this will show us how the course was delivered to the students and the primary language that it's taught in. So the delivery method has a few things in here. There's face-to-face, online learning, blended learning, and distance learning. So we're talking about how the course was designed. So in the height of the pandemic, we did have a lot of districts kind of panic and say, wait a second, nobody's on campus right now at all. Should we change this to online learning or distance learning or blended learning because they're not face-to-face? And the answer to that, and it continues to be, is no. So if you have some sort of emergency situation where the course has to suddenly change to be remote only, maybe the teacher has a health condition going on and they can only teach now from home, but they are still teaching the course, you don't change it because it was designed to be delivered face-to-face. Only change this if the course is actually designed to be one of these, delivered via one of these versions. So with primary language, I've also had this question come up a few times saying, well, this is a foreign language course. It's French too. What do we have this as a primary language? If it was designed for English speaking students, then it's English. But if it's a ENL course, you might want to change it to the appropriate language. That's completely fine too. This little button too, if you had multiple sections, you could apply this and then just apply all these settings all the way down. Super nice. Okay. This is also mentioned in the handouts, by the way, so you don't feel like you have to memorize that. The graded checkbox, by the way, so if we were talking about that library course, you can uncheck the graded here, and that will not even show the option for the teacher to submit marking period or progress report grades. They can still build a grade book, but it would just no options to submit grades in it. Your choice if you're building a course like that, because there are no grades expected. Okay, are there any questions on that part? Okay, awesome. All right, well, let me get out of here. And the last piece we're going to talk about is your faculty module. So all together, the between the course catalog, your master schedule, and your faculty module, this is how the information leaves Schooltool and makes it up to level 0, where it starts its journey through the data warehouse. So the important parts to know are that the universal faculty ID field, it has to have, if this is a teacher of record, so this, we already know that Nathan Jones is a teacher that we need to export. We know that he needs to have a universal faculty ID entered in here, which really means the teach ID, which is the system where the teach tracks all your teachers. So I'm going to hit the edit button here. Now, keep in mind, you may not know this information because typically this is something that only HR would know. But it doesn't hurt for you to, if you just created a new faculty member because you have to get your master schedule ready. You could say, hey, email HR and say, you got to update the Teach ID, or, update the faculty profile to give the information that it needs, because you already know that there's going to be a problem, and they might just come back to you about it and you have nothing to do with it. But at least you could just say, hey, no, you need to fill in that part, and say, oh, got it, thanks. So these are things that it helps to know, but don't feel solely responsible for this. This is everybody's responsibility, but just so you are aware, this is how it works. Teach IDs are 9 digits. So if you have an ID that is something like this, you're going to want to put in 2 zeros in the front. I do believe Schooltool will automatically fix this for you, but I've been doing it this way for so long that I like to see it with the 2 zeros in front. So I'm going to still recommend that you do this just in case. So it pads the number out to the correct amount of digits. You can also see here too in the faculty ID, I have a value in here. So it looks like this district is using the faculty ID to track some sort of internal faculty ID. I like, if they're not doing that, if that's not something that we do, I like to update both to be that Teach ID. And the reason why is because when I come back into faculty, and I think I have to actually leave it. Let's go into faculty again. When I search for Nathan Jones, that tells me, hey, the Teach ID is already in there. Even though it doesn't report from the faculty ID field, we recommend that you update both at the same time, if at all possible, because it's a quality of life thing. It's a helpful thing. You don't have to do it. You can absolutely leave them to be 2 different values, but that's just something I recommend if you can. There's also 2 other things in here too. This is a special education indicator, and an English as a new language indicator. So if a teacher holds a special education certification or an English as a new language certification, they have to have this box checked appropriately, because this is what subjects them to the certification match. Again, not solely your responsibility, but if it's something that you happen to know, feel free to check that box. If you know for sure that they hold a special ed certification or something like that, it is helpful for the certification information that we match on. The rest of this stuff down here, don't use. All right. So there's that part. I talked about incidental teachers. I also wanted to mention itinerant teachers. So itinerant teachers are a bit of a different situation. You might have an itinerant teacher from BOCES, so they're teaching maybe Mandarin Chinese to your students, which means that they need to be attached via your master schedule to those kids. They also need to have a staff snapshot entered for them in level 0, which is not something that you control. That would be something that Data Warehouse would help us with. The way that we handle it for teachers from BOCES, that's the most common scenario, is BOCES will release that faculty information. We'll put it into your level 0, and then somebody has to come in here, make the appropriate faculty profile with all this information checked, based on that faculty information, and then they're attached to the section in your master schedule or sections, and that's how we report the kids. This gets a lot more difficult when they're from a neighboring school district, for example. So what I would recommend is, if you know you have one of these situations at your district and you're not sure it's being reported correctly, please contact Data Readiness and we'll look into all of it for you, because the indicator on the course also with their course delivery method, that will come into play too. So we want to make sure all of that is correctly associated. So that's itinerant teachers versus incidental teachers. They both start with I. The state chose the wording. Okay. All right, well, all of that is also mentioned in the handouts that I've got for you guys that we'll send along after. But these are all the things that work together in harmony to get your information up. Of course, the staff certification that I've talked about is all based on your course catalog, whether or not the teachers export their faculty profile, all of it. So if you've gotten a lot more questions in the last couple of years, because that's how long we've been doing this now in this new model, that's why. And so it might help just as you're setting things up to know what the buttons are controlling, how to fix things a little bit quicker so you don't have to deal with tangled messes of course history or faculty history, things like that. So these are the things we wanted to go over, because we realized we don't go over this much. So we just wanted to touch upon that in case it would help. Are there any questions on this or anything I've talked about or anything related to it?
Yeah, we opened this up right this time, whether it's scheduling related or just a general school tool question. If it's on your mind right now, you have us for another 20 minutes. If you have a question, please bring it up. We're happy to help. Since we're hearing crickets, I'm assuming nobody has anything on their mind right now. I know what happens is you get off these trainings and you immediately think of something. When I send out the information, I'll send out my PowerPoint, I'll send out Darcy's documents that she shared with us today. And when I send that out, I will indicate mine and Darcy's contact information. I'm going to include Katie Harp as well. She's also a really good support option for you. Stephanie Gillette, if you're up north, she's excellent as well. I don't know how we would do our job with everybody without all of this team together. So if you have any questions, send us an email, call the RIC 315-361-2700, option 1. And we'd be happy to help you. Anyone on the School Tool team can help. Even though I'm going to put our contact information, you're not relegated just to contacting us. So feel free to send us questions, whether it be scheduling related or anything at all in School Tool. We're always available. I am available until 5 p.m. So I know that phone calls usually ended around 4:30. You got an extra half hour these days. So there is a benefit. There's the silver lining to that dark cloud. So we're happy to help. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to give you back 20 minutes of your day. If you were going to stay late, you'll get a few minutes back. So we really, truly appreciate you coming, and we'll send this information out as soon as this is over.